at all that money, yeah, the money that they spent. Take another look now and take some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, right now it's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking Time for Hemp. I'm your host, Casper Leitch. You are listening to Time for Hemp at Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, and of course on iHeartRadio. We are the only all-cannabis broadcasting network on iHeartRadio, and we thank you for tuning in. It is Monday, and on Monday we like to salute all the hardworking people at Patients Out of Time and thank them for their wonderful work. We encourage you to check out their website. If you are a healthcare professional, you can get accredited programming there to help extend your education. And we like to also celebrate the wonderful things that cannabis sativa can do for our bodies, brains, minds, and soul. A big shout out to KDK Distributors. I want to say thank you to them for giving us a grant to keep us loud, proud, and strong. Well, as I said, it is Healthy Mondays, and I will turn my joint conversation over to my joint host here on the big broadcast, Lynn Mathre and Al Byrnes. Good morning.
Good morning, Casper. Glad to be your joint host again. This is Lynn, I'm sure. I'm speaking to you all from Virginia. Lynn will be speaking to you all from Florida, where our guest is also located. But right now, I'm speaking on behalf of Patients Out of Time. Our website is www.medicalcannabis.com. And Casper is very correct when he says our job is education. We've been doing medical cannabis education, clinical work, research work, whatever falls into that category. We have tried to bring that information to light. We've done it with an international team of scientists and clinicians. And the next time we will be doing this in earnest will be this coming May 21, 22, and 23 of 2015. The location will be West Palm Beach, Florida, the Palm Beach County Convention Center. And at that location and on those dates, we will be holding the 9th National Clinical Conference on Cannabis Therapeutics. This conference will be accredited. That means that doctors and nurses, et cetera, other healthcare professionals that attend this conference, if they wish, can claim education credits, continuing medical education credits, which most of them will need to keep their licenses active in the states they work. It's an international faculty. It's a 2-day agenda, but there will be a pre-conference workshop day. That's the 21st of May. Those pre-conference workshops will be specialty workshops designed specifically, one for medical doctors, one for registered nurses, one for pharmacists, and one for attorneys. It's a no-miss, no-brainer conference. If you're a medical professional and you want to know about cannabis, and if you're a medical professional, you need to attend this conference. And today we have, as we usually do on Mondays, we have a medical cannabis expert with us. He's not only a medical cannabis expert, he's actually written a book about it, which is something that I've been trying to do for quite a while. So please, folks, let's welcome Stephen Leonard Johnshon. Stephen Leonard Johnshon is both a PhD and a registered nurse. Hi, Steve.
Hi, how you doing?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. And Mary Lynn, are you out there somewhere?
I'm out there. Welcome, Steve. We just got together last night, so glad to have you on the radio today.
Thank you. I guess my background is I started in massage therapy. I went to a college called Goddard College up in Vermont. And Yeah, so we studied massage therapy up there. It was an alternative college, and I liked it. So I signed up to go out to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and did a 1,000-hour program out there in massage therapy. And then I came back east and started in nursing. And I started in a 3-year hospital-based program and just went on from there. And I ended up pretty much getting certified in psychiatric nursing. I've done a lot of psychiatric nursing. From forensics to emergency room, dual diagnosis, just about any level of psychiatry you can work in. And I basically was in charge, at least in Poughkeepsie at St. Francis. We had 3 psych units there. I was the night supervisor over those. So from my end of it, it's kind of an odd blend, but I'm coming in from psychiatry and medical massage therapy. And that's pretty much what I focused on.
Why don't you give me a quick briefing on medical massage therapy, because when you're done, Mary Lynn's going to say, "Oh, see, that stimulates the endocannabinoid system." But go ahead. And what is medical massage therapy for the listeners?
Medical massage therapy is diagnosis treatment oriented. It's pretty much beyond going in for a general Swedish massage and that kind of thing. It's more localized over an area of the body, like a joint or an elbow or a shoulder, that kind of thing. And you'd be working from a diagnosis, and then you'd be going in. And we use modalities such as hydrocollator, steam heat packs, high-speed vibration. And lately, I've incorporated cannabidiol, CBD, into my massage work. And my significant other, Tina, she has a joint disease, Ehlers-Danlos, and we've been using the cannabidiol, which is one of 60 cannabinoids in the cannabis plant. And that's the only one we've been able to get access to, being in Florida, which is still a prohibition state. So I've been mixing it into the massage oils, working with her, and I've been mixing it in, and she's been taking it internally. So she'll take about 25 milligrams of CBD internally, and I usually use about a 25 milligram concentrate in one massage. So, and the CBD works on a receptor site that is responsible for inflammation. It downregulates it, and it downregulates the pain signal, and it's been very successful for us in decreasing inflammation.
So let me get this right for the listener. You've got Tina is taking a CBD oil in some sort of edible fashion, and then you're also administering on a daily basis CBD oil topically. Is that it?
Yes, we've devoted. We decided to devote 3 massages a week, an hour and a half per session, to working on more or less the issues of Ehlers-Danlos, and a lot of that, for lack of a better way to put it, the muscles tend to constrict and be contracted, especially around unstable joints. And so we try to increase the circulation into the area and decrease the inflammation. And that's been our strategy, and it's been working.
Okay, and so again, but the oil is used in that case as a topical, huh?
In part, yeah, she'll take it internally and topical. And it's a transdermal effect where it absorbs through her skin and goes into the local area.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I just, I sometimes understand things. I want to make sure our listeners do too, Steve. We got about 2.5 million of them. Yeah, we got 2.5 million of them listening all over the world, really. So sometimes they also to make us understand that, they understand what our rules are and our laws are and the things that we have to operate under, so that we're clear to somebody in Finland today as well, Mary Lynn, you got to add on to this?
Well, no, I think, as Steve's saying, CBD, we've talked about it a lot as being only one of the cannabinoids in cannabis, and yet it is the one that has been exciting. For years, Patients Out of Time has been trying to we've joined with Project CBD in trying to let the growers know that medical cannabis is not all about just THC. It's all these other cannabinoids. And so a lot of researchers have been doing the research on CBD. And Steve and Tina are in a predicament, just like we are in Virginia and other people in other states. We don't have marijuana, cannabis is prohibited, and so what do you do? How can you access something legally to get by? And from and talking to Steve earlier, it was, well, let's try this CBD. The researchers are using that to find out its different properties. And if anyone reads about CBD, it has a heck of a lot of properties without the euphoria, which is obviously good for many patients. We all, love this whole plant. But for so many people out there, in the United States, in the world, where you can't get it, it may be possible that you could get CBD products. And, people are making it, whether it be from the cannabis sativa plant or possibly from the hemp plant, and trying to get around our crazy prohibition in the United States, which in my mind I think in all of our minds has no right to be prohibited as a plant. But be that as it may, some companies are trying to introduce CBD as a nutraceutical. It is not psychoactive. It should be available to everyone. So this is a possible alternative for people to at least get an idea of what cannabis can do, because CBD does act on our endocannabinoid system. It is helping that work. And I think Al was saying earlier about massage, that we learned that at one of our conferences years back, that things like massage and yoga and acupuncture actually help stimulate our own endocannabinoid system. So it makes good sense. And can you talk a little bit, Steve, about the differences that Tina's noticed from before using CBD and after using that for a while?
Well, it's mostly, the only real judge we have is that it's functional. Tina, at points in her life, had to wear braces, and even at one point couldn't bring her a fork to her mouth. Now she's walking 3 miles a night briskly. So that's what we use. We use the functionality. It's not very sophisticated. We're just going on our own, and it's true. That's all we really have to work with here is cannabidiol. Nothing else is legal in the cannabinoid department or the cannabis plant department. Now, that said, I would like to, if I may, just put it out there that as a nurse, when I discovered even the cannabidiol, and I'm new to this, but I was so excited when I learned about the cannabinoids and the endocannabinoid system and all it can do. I wrote a book. Tina and I co-wrote a book. We were so excited. And I guess that in contrast, when I've talked to some healthcare professionals, by contrast, they may not have even heard of the endocannabinoid system. And, you might get a funny stare and a yawn sometimes. And my take on that is that, true, we didn't study it in school. There was no chapter on it because it wasn't discovered yet. But it has been discovered, and there will be chapters on the endocannabinoid system in physiology books from here on out. So I say to my colleagues, don't wait. The pharmaceutical companies and the medical marijuana is passing state by state now, and it's our responsibility as practitioners to understand this endocannabinoid system and how the cannabinoids are used as medicine in our bodies, and that we have to know all about these things just like we would any other drug. The uses, the interactions, the dosages, any other details around this. And the bottom line is this is a very important system. And it is a controlling system of other systems, like, for instance, your neurotransmitters. So it is way important. So an attitude of blasé attitude about it is, probably not going to cut the mustard. This is something that we all need to learn about. Yeah.
I agree with you, Steve. I mean, we preach that, and you're reading our book right now. I guarantee you. But I want to ask you a tough question.
All right.
I mean, I've said over and over again, I'll say it right now to you and everybody listening, In my humble opinion, the U.S. Healthcare establishment, the doctors and nurses and the pharmacists of this country, have abdicated their responsibility concerning medical use of cannabis to cops and lawyers. I think it's a disgrace, personally, for that whole operation, everybody. So now if we, Patients at a Time, a little nonprofit formed 20 years ago, has to step up and do this instead of the medical establishment, they ought to be ashamed of themselves, all of you. But here's a tough question. So now everybody down the last few years, okay, we better start paying attention. I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, wow, endocannabinoid system and everything else. Well, my tough question is, look, we know 20, 30, 40, 50 million Americans in the United States are using cannabis all the time anyway. Why did anybody care about what was happening to them? Where were the doctors and nurses asking the questions like, well, cannabis might be illegal, but these people are using it. Why aren't we interested to find out what's happening to these people when they use it? That's a tough question. And I think there's no answer to it except that, the medical community has abrogated its responsibility in the past, and it's doing it now. And your point is well taken. There is 157 medical schools in the United States. I don't know about nursing schools. But we have a pretty good authority that only one in the entire country, one medical school in the entire country, which is Temple University in Philadelphia, teaches a course on the endocannabinoid system of medical cannabis in the United States in 2014. It's crazy. We're going to go on a break. We'll come back with Dr. Leonard Johnshon here, folks, in just a couple of minutes.
are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
THCF Medical Clinics are the premier physicians clinic in the United States. THCF has offices all across the United States from Hawaii to Michigan. THCF Medical Clinics has helped approximately 150,000 patients obtain their medical marijuana permits to legally possess, grow, and use medical marijuana. If you have chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, or any other neurological degenerative disease, or if you have any gastrointestinal disorders such as GERD, irritable bowel syndrome, or if you have AIDS, cancer, spastic disorders, seizure disorders, or glaucoma, call us at 1-800-723-0188 or visit us online at hemp.org. Again, the number is 1-800-723-0188 and the site is hemp.org.
It used to be the law. You were required to go hemp. Can you imagine such a law? Let's reenact that law again. George Washington, founder of the USA. He was a hemp farmer. Yep, George, he rolled that way. Thomas Jefferson, a founder of the USA, was also a hemp farmer. It was okay back in the day. It used to be a law. You were required to grow hemp. Can you imagine such a law? Let's reenact that law again. George Washington was a patriot. George Washington was a pot patriot. Thomas Jefferson was a patriot. Thomas Jefferson was a pot patriot. Benjamin Franklin owned a mill that made hemp paper. The Declaration of Independence was written on hemp. On August 7, 1765, George Washington wrote this in his diary. Began to separate the male from the female hemp, rather too late. You see, George was bummed because he wasn't just growing hemp for rope. He was growing buds for smoke. Benjamin Franklin was a patriot. Benjamin Franklin was a pot patriot. George Washington was a patriot. George Washington was a pot patriot. Now flash forward to the era of marijuana prohibition, where there's a whole new generation of pot patriots winning the war on education, information, on the cannabis medication. People like Jack Herrera, John Sinclair, Tom Forsyth, Keith Straub, Mark Emery, Dana Beale, David Peel, John Lennon, Paul Krasner, Steve Hager, Jet Baker. Hey, that's me. What about you? Are you a pot patriot? You see, since the 1960s, the start of the re-legalization of cannabis movement, each generation makes some progress, and each generation also learns from the previous generation. So now there's more pot patriots on Earth than ever before. People like Bobby Black, Casper Leitch, Vivian McPeak, Scarlett Swerdlow, Steve Fox, Aaron Houston. Oh, so many patriots that are leading the cannabis movement to re-legalization. I wish I could name all of your names, but I know I'm going to forget some people, but I'm going to try. People like Russ Belville, Debbie Goldsberry, Danny Danko, David Borden, Peter Christ, Steve Silverman, Alan St. Pierre, Josh Schimberg, the Cottonmouth Kings, Richard Lee, General Patton, Dave Bienenstein, Steve Dillon, Willie Nelson, Jorge Cervantes, Steve Bloom, Mishka, Brad Ernst, Don Duncan, Marco Renda, Ron Mann, Doug Benson, Ethan Nailman, Valerie Coral, Ed Rosenthal, Bill Maher, Roger Belknap, Larry, Alec, Audrey, Donna, Elise, Thumpa, Anthony, Sarah Newton, Rocker T, Woody Harrelson, Rick Cusick, Tommy Chong. So many pot patriots.
You are listening to Time for Hemp all around the world at timeforhemp.com, Tumblr, SoundCloud, and of course, iHeartRadio. Big shout out to all my friends up in Canada. Thank you to KDK Distributors for giving us a grant to keep us loud, proud, and strong. It is Healthy Mondays, and because of that, we have my joint host and I having a discussion on how this wonderful plant known as cannabis sativa can help our bodies, spirits, minds, and souls. With that said, I pass this conversation back to my joint host here at Time for Hemp.
Thanks, Casper. This is Al Byrne for Patients at a Time, and we're here with Dr. Stephen Leonard Johnshon. Dr. Johnshon is also a registered nurse, and he is the co-author of a book that I want you to get your pen and paper out here. The name of the book is Cannabis Medicine is Back. It is by Stephen Leonard-Johnshon, registered nurse, PhD, and Tina Rappaport, BFA. And the book is centered upon CBD-rich hemp oil, which we're going to discuss, Steve. But how do folks get this nice book?
Well, it's called the CBD Rich Hemp Oil. Cannabis Medicine is Back, and it can be an ebook on Amazon for $2.99. You can download it or buy it for $9.99. The book, originally we got the idea for the book because when we're not pioneers of this. I'm like a lot of nurses out there, millions probably, who never heard of this before, the first of the year now. And then when we did learn about it, we were a little bit confused about it, to be honest. So we were determined to write a book about classifying at least medical marijuana and cannabidiol and just clearing the air. I originally started to write it for nurses. And then I said, why don't we just write a book that helps people to understand this at a basic level? And that's what we set about. And it seemed to have worked out pretty well. So, so we're really into education. And I think once people learn about this, it might be less challenging for them to accept, because we've all been programmed otherwise,
Yeah. I mean, you think it's bad trying to explain things to doctors and nurses who look at you with a blank stare? Try to deal with the media who don't know anything about anything in medicine. These editors, I've written and talked to hundreds of editors, and They don't want to touch it. They think, I don't know what that is. I'm not going to write about it. Why isn't the FDA doing this? Listen, we were talking during the break about the three of us, Mary Lynn and you and I, about Marinol and how Marinol became a drug of use for certain things in 1985. My recollection is that when it came on, well, it's not a recollection, it's a true story here, that when Marinol came on the market, it came on in Schedule 2. Marinol is now in Schedule 3. This is the only drug that's ever been descheduled since the history of the scheduling system started, which sort of shows you how safe even THC is. But again, this was one compound, THC, and it was put in a tube of a capsule of sesame oil, and it was synthetically made, not taken from the plant. And now I sometimes joke with sort of, cringing at the same time, but saying, well, maybe we should take heart, Steve, and that the lawyers and the cops that are doing your job for you, just prescribing medicine and telling people what they can use it for, now at least know there's another compound called CBD. So they've come a long way. They've doubled their knowledge. But I would like to comment on whether you think CBD oil is all we got to do, or should we be thinking about the whole plant?
Well, this is my take on it. We have an endocannabinoid system. This endocannabinoid system responds to cannabis, and that's the message. Because there hasn't been a lot of research because of its Schedule 1 status, but I think there's going to be an explosion of research, and in fact there already is, and that leads me to the point that there will be cannabis-based medications coming down the pike for sure. There are a lot in the pipeline now. So whether it's Marinol back in the 80s or these new ones that are coming out for diabetes and Alzheimer's, they are really going to town on this, let me tell you. And so we will be dealing with cannabis-based medicine. So it's up to us to learn about the whole system and how it works. And otherwise, even Marinol, let's say someone prescribed Marinol back in the 80s. They haven't discovered the endocannabinoid system yet. Did they know what they were prescribing it and how it worked? No. But now, if someone prescribes Marinol, it's probably their responsibility to know that it works on the endocannabinoid system. It only makes sense.
How much you want to bet they don't, those doctors that are prescribing Marinol?
Well, they need to. That's the point. Well, I don't know if they do or not. I think probably some doctors might, but they would do well to know how the mechanism of action works if they're prescribing a medication, and the nurses too. So, there's no hiding here. We just have to move ahead with education, and people just have to understand that this is a part of our physiology, and we have to deal with it. I think the problem is that it's associated with something that was a Schedule 1, and it's not being embraced. Everybody's kind of like weirded out about it, but in reality, it's there in the cannabinoids and the terpenes and all these elements of the cannabis plant will rebalance the endocannabinoid system, which is responsible for regulation of other systems and providing homeostasis.
There are more reasons than ever why now is the best time to be on Verizon. 1. Verizon.
Okay, so that's my answer. Is yes, the whole plant. We might find that different cannabinoids are better for certain things. Whatever. I really don't care. The main thing is
you want to keep looking. You don't want to see just two compounds out there for the next 20 years, do you?
No, and there's also terpenes that are having a therapeutic effect as a standalone, and also I'd like to mention that one thing that's a real booster to this treatment and therapy is taking omega-3 fatty acids, like a good food-based fatty acid intake, because that's what your endocannabinoids, your natural cannabinoids, are synthesized out of, as well as repairing your cannabidiol receptor sites, CB receptors 1 and receptor 2. They're all manufactured with the omega oil. So it's really important to rebuild this system in people, because the diagnosis of clinical endocannabinoid deficiency is real and it's out there. So if I have a doctor and I go to my doctor and I have a problem like a headache, and I say to my doctor, do you think it's clinical endocannabinoid deficiency, which it might be, and they don't know what I'm talking about, then I'm screwed. What am I going to do? Because that doctor doesn't know about it. So I'll get an inappropriate treatment, some other drug or whatever. So
Well, we agree.
Huh?
Marilyn and I started doing this with 5 other patients and a couple of doctors 20 years ago. And I'll tell you, people just thought we were bizarre. And at the time, I have to admit, everybody, it sort of solved my problem, the endocannabinoid system, because one of the things that got us involved in this, Marilyn and I, when she was doing her master's thesis stuff, we did, I'm not going to go the whole story, but we all of a sudden discovered that patients were not just using cannabis for glaucoma pressures and for chemotherapy sickness, nausea, vomiting. They were using it for all kinds of things, mainly pain, but all kinds of pain. But it opened up so many doors to us. But it also opened up this huge question for us, Steve, which was, hey, how can this substance, this plant material, work on the pain in my foot and also help control the intraocular pressure in my eye? Wow. And the answer came another, one of those eureka moments when the endocannabinoid system was discovered some 20 years ago. At that moment, every question I ever had about how did that work was answered overnight. And you're right. This is a stupendous observation. It has been proven by science now for 20 years that we have an endocannabinoid system. And if your doctor and nurse out there, wherever you are, whether you're in Iowa or Finland, doesn't know about the endocannabinoid system, you're not getting proper medical care, are they, Steve?
Well, you're not getting the full range of potential diagnosis. And if the diagnosis falls within the endocannabinoid system, then yeah, you're not. because
Listen, I want to.
Well,
in
a
this
full
area
diagnosis
here,
includes yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we walk on each other sometimes with this thing, but I do want to get certain things out to the public here. You were talking to us earlier, too, that you're a consultant to an international organization that's doing something pretty nice. Well, why don't you tell us about that for a few minutes, please? We've got about 3 before the next break. Okay.
This is called the International Cannabidiol Organization of Manufacturers and Research. It's ICOMR, ICOMR, and this organization is devoted to the recently new industry of cannabidiol internationally, and they are here to basically provide consumer protection and an oversight in the industry. So they are only going with FDA approval in the labs, in the standards, right across the board. And they're encouraging other manufacturers to come on board with this and get standards. And what they're doing is there's a group out there called BSPG. It's a Biosynthesis Pharma Group, and they have a pharmaceutical-grade pure CBD. And what they are doing is they're making this available to families who have children with seizure disorders that can't afford any kind of care, in terms of CBD or medical marijuana or anything. And they're going to make this available. There's a quick grant process that you go on and you apply for it. It's very simple. Up to 150 families can apply for this, and they will provide this pharmaceutical-grade CBD for the rest of that child's life if they need it. And that's 150 families are doing this for rather. And the crystal CBD can be formulated in other compounds that a physician wants to include with the CBD, whatever it is. And there's also basically a component of that that's research equivalent, where any kind of research groups, universities, and that kind of thing can also apply, and they will provide the CBD for them to use in their research.
Wow. This is going to come on in a week. How are these people going to apply for this? Did they go to a certain URL, Steve, or what happens?
It's right on the iComR website. That's ICOMR, and it's under Apply for Grants.
ICOMR.org.
Exactly. Thank you. I left the .org out. And it's right there. It's not too complicated. It's just a 1 or 2 page type application with simple questions, and that's it.
Is this it's an international company? Where do these patients, these children, have to be located? Anywhere?
I believe so. And also, when they do get accepted into the program, the CBD is sent to their doctors every month. So yeah, I'm sure it is. And it's just a way, to give back.
It's a great way, and I hope other people just emulate this. There's not enough giving back and giving help in this cannabis community. There's a lot of money being made, and I don't see a lot of it going to veterans or the really sick like these folks are doing. And so I applaud them, and I applaud you for working with them. And we got to go on a break, Steve, but we'll be back. You'll get another shot at me. Okay.
All right.
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
Serious Seeds is your source for quality cannabis and sativa seeds. Serious Seeds are the creators of legendary strains like AK-47, Bubblegum, Chronic, Cali Mist, and White Russian. The AK-47 is probably the most awarded strain on the planet. The high THC content of AK-47 makes it the perfect medical strain for patients seeking quick pain relief. Cali Mist is an almost pure sativa. Female medical cannabis patients have reported that this strain helps relieve menstrual cramps. Serious Seeds just acquired another Dutch high-quality seed bank, Magus Genetics. From now on, Serious Seeds can offer you even more award-winning strains. The fine folks at Serious Seeds strive to breed the best cannabis genetics that they can find, so patients can rely on the effectiveness of their medicine. Go to SeriousSeeds.com to grow your medicine. That site again is SeriousSeeds.com.
Plant that grows from the earth, and our politicians tremble in their boots when you just say the word. When you just say the name of the plant, they all get stupid and say, I don't know anything about it, I have no clue. When you tell them it has medical value, they all act surprised. When you tell them that it's got 50,000 products made from it, from paper to clothing to fuel, they all act surprised. But then they turn around and go, oh my God, it'll get you high, and that's what we know about it. Because our politicians are paid puppets, and they're paid to be stupid. With that said, I pass the conversation back to my joint host here at Time for Hemp.
Thank you, Casper. Well, if you're right, they earn their money. They do it well. But the thing that I'd like to point out again, what Dr. Leonard Johnshon has said earlier, Big Pharma. Let us not be surprised that Big Pharma is into the cannabis medicine business in a big way. In my home, there are numerous bottles and cans with names like Eli Lilly and Merck and these guys all over them. And the labels are full, say that the products that were made by these big pharma companies were full of cannabis. The big pharma knows this is good medicine. I'm sure locked in their vaults are all sorts of recipes that they're already cooking up for modern usage. But, I mean, Steve, my last count was there are 27 countries in the world which are using cannabis as a medicine. And then if there isn't any bigger than Bayer, which is the distributor of GW Pharmaceuticals cannabis products in Europe, I think Bayer is the fourth largest pharmaceutical company in the world, and there it is, a cannabis distributor. So, you got to look at the United States government and the restrictions that they have on you as a practicing clinician and an expert in cannabis, and it's just. It boggles my mind why they won't turn you guys loose and let you do your work and do it well. And again, we're back to cops and lawyers making medical decisions, and I just think it's outrageous and unethical. But you're a psychiatric specialist. Do you have any experience with cannabis in veterans and post-traumatic stress? Because that is a particular issue of Mary Lynn and I and patients at a time.
My point of view on that is that I think it's probably, just personally speaking, I would think that it would be probably the best treatment for post-traumatic stress, in conjunction with a complete medical program. In other words, what we were talking about before, part of the program. And if part of the problem is a veteran's endocannabinoid system from being traumatized, then trauma can disrupt the endocannabinoid system. So absolutely, you want to reestablish the balance in the endocannabinoid system, and the way you're going to do that is with medical cannabis.
Well, in your readings and things, there is this point that is brought out sometimes, and it's very much misunderstood, especially by journalism, about cannabis and schizophrenia. And interestingly enough, I think we don't want to go into that too much, but do you see a downside of veteran use for post-traumatic stress by using cannabis in any form? In your experience or your readings, have you ever seen a downside to that?
Okay, I would give a special consideration to psychiatric, in that if it is used with veterans, it absolutely should be used under a physician's care, and for several reasons that, and the more measured it is, the better, in terms of product quality, and I think basically that the anxiety problem with THC, the schizophrenia or psychotic problem with THC, that has to be managed, if somebody's hypersensitive to it. And if they're really acute, you don't want to have the THC cause side effects, but even though you would need it, you would have to come up with the proper combinations in order to make it a smooth sailing operation, I think. We're into
that. Dosage and what is our saying here, Mary Lynn? Start low and go slow. For a dosage mantra, if you will. There's so many discussions going on in the public and with the politicians now about all these subjects. I'm just trying to run through a few. But are we missing something that you want to talk about in the last few minutes here?
Well, in terms of veterans, I feel that they should do anything possible to help them, and And I think this is certainly one avenue they can go down to help them. And the more that the medical establishment gets involved in it and learns about it, the better they'll get at fine-tuning how to prescribe medical marijuana for veterans in combination with other medications, and or at least in consideration of, because there are interactions. So if they can get that down, I think it'd be fabulous.
Yeah,
we're down here in Florida, and they're going to be going for the vote here in November. It's Amendment 2, voting for a constitutional change to allow medical cannabis. And basically because the legislators have not been able to get past to pass a bill of their own for years after it's been introduced over and over. So people are voting. And I just came from a debate this morning, and I found it just so frustrating. The opponents literally are debating. They're saying, well, yes, we're for medical marijuana. They don't know to call it cannabis, but we're for medical marijuana. It's got some value there. But they're trying to say that this constitutional change isn't going to be perfect. It's probably going to be needing changes later. And I think the other thing they said, and it didn't have an age limit. And it's like all these scare tactics going out there because it didn't specifically state an age limit. It didn't need to. Florida has a law that physicians cannot prescribe something for a child without parental consent. So, that's a safeguard that's there. And the other thing is, get this medicine available to patients as soon as possible. And if it needs more fixing down the road, fine. But if people vote no, that means there's nothing. Once again, they're left with, I shouldn't say nothing, CBD, but we're stuck again without full access to this medicine when someone needs something that actually they need the THC as part of it. So, as much as we can, we keep saying educate, but patients, this medicine is very safe. Start low, go slow. You will find what works for you depending on what the issue is with guidance. But when it's a true prohibition, we all lose, every one of us. Patients who are desperate go and take it, and they have no quality control of what they get. If we can make it legal, free this plant, it is a plant. We should be able to grow this plant, but if we can free the plant and allow people to use reap the medical benefits from it, everybody wins.
Yeah, and folks that are listening, if your own common sense doesn't say to you, we should be using this plant not only medically but in a lot of other ways, then let me give you one more reason why you should want a medical cannabis law federally and in your state. Especially if you live in a state that doesn't have a medical cannabis law like Florida and Virginia, where these two voices are coming from. Both veterans in Florida and Virginia cannot use cannabis medically and be treated in a VA facility, which is our right, treatment in a VA facility. But if we live in Maine or New Mexico, or we're just visiting Maine or New Mexico and we're using cannabis medically, even if it's self-medication, the VA welcomes Mary Lynn and I in and treats us as veterans. So what I'm telling you is you got about, something like 3.8 million military veterans in active duty in Florida. And if you passed a medical cannabis law, they could use cannabis medically. They could use medical cannabis and be treated in Veterans Health Administration facilities. And right now they cannot. So if you don't want to vote for your vets, take the yellow ribbon off the back of your car, and I don't want to hear from you again, okay? Dr. Leonard Johnshon, I really appreciate you coming on board. Is there anything else you'd like to just finish up with, please? Got a few minutes left, I think.
Well, I just going to keep spreading the word, and I'm thankful that cannabidiol is out there, the CBD, and I think that people can start buying that and working with it, and if they have success with it, they ought to consider opening or their minds a little bit more to the other cannabinoids and the possibilities that they can do. I realize the damage that has been done with films like Reefer Madness and such. It's been really, before the endocannabinoid system was discovered, that's one thing. But now we know about it. So, it's just time for an attitude shift. Yeah, that's about it.
Any last questions, Mary Lynn?
No last questions. I just, once again, we'll let people know that the 9th National Clinical Conference on Cannabis Therapeutics will be May 21 to 23 of 2015. And at that time, it also just happens to be Patients Out of Time's 20th anniversary. It's only the 9th clinical conference because we had them every 2 years. We're now going annual. And it literally took us 5 years until we could get an accrediting body to acknowledge the fact that we had real science and clinicians needed to know about it. So education is the key. We'll keep pushing it. We hope to see anyone out there. Please come and learn. And otherwise, you can find information on www.medicalcannabis.com or the Medical Cannabis Institute.org. We've partnered with them, and they are also putting out online continuing education for healthcare professionals. So anyone out there, if you're a healthcare professional, these courses are available to you. If you're a patient, encourage your healthcare professionals to take this course. If your physician, your PA, nurse practitioner who cares for you does not know about the endocannabinoid system, you can gear them to those websites, expect that they learn about it, and frankly, if they don't learn about it, you might want to consider finding a new healthcare professional, because this is your human body, and as Steve said, it literally regulates all of our different functions within the body. It's this master regulator to keep us in balance. It's very, very important. So you want your healthcare professional to understand the basics of the endocannabinoid system.
Right, and I'd like to say this, and I don't mean to be a smart aleck. I'm saying this in all sincerity, is that the police and the politicians and anybody have family, and all of them have an endocannabinoid system, and when it gets up close and personal, like their mother is coming down with Alzheimer's, or their wife or daughter is sick and cannabis could help them, and then it kind of hits home. But there's no getting out of it. The cannabinoids will be involved in treatment of some major illnesses, no doubt about it. So,
and it gets even bigger than that, Steve. I mean, when you and folks that are listening, I mean, we've had a whole discussion here almost over that, and we've talked about humans, human animal.
Yeah.
But the endocannabinoid system is in all living creatures, all animals, everything.
Yeah.
Except everything. So, I mean, if you're a veterinarian and you don't know what the endocannabinoid system is, then you don't know my golden retrievers don't have an endocannabinoid system, and you're missing something. And now my veterinarian, you better believe he knows about the endocannabinoid system, and he knows about cannabis, and he pays a lot of attention to what Meredith and I teach him, and his techs are learning this, and they're pretty much amazed at what they see. But my point is here, we eat animals. And those animals we eat have an endocannabinoid system. And is their endocannabinoid system deficient? I kind of think when I drive by those beef lots out there in Texas on I-40 that those poor animals sitting in that yard certainly have a weak endocannabinoid system. And then we slaughter them and we eat them. Mary Lynn and I have cows in our field, and we slaughter them and eat them. And they don't end up, they're in a grass bed, and that's what I want to eat. But again, the point is, everything has an endocannabinoid system. So, you just wrote a book, CBD Rich Hemp Oil, Doctor, for really every living creature that eats. And they should really read your book. It'll open a lot of minds up.
Yeah, it's not a hard read. It's geared.
Not
it's geared.
It's very informative, and Marilyn and I want to thank you for coming on board. You're a great guest. We happy to hear that Tina is doing so well. That's a tough
She
disease.
She
And
is.
we hope to see you in person down there in Florida this coming May.
Great. Well, we will. We will. And she's doing
Okay.
great. We couldn't be happier.
That's super. Will you keep it up, Steve? Thank you again. And folks, just to go back to the veterans for a minute, I want to call you to one more website, please. Keep with us, but these are all important sites. It's www.vetptsdstudy.org. vetptsdstudy.org. This is a call for veterans who live in medical cannabis states and who use cannabis for post-traumatic stress to take part in a survey. We would like 10,000 veterans who are getting there. We're climbing right now, but we're not at 10,000. We want to be. You got to sign up for a year, but it's not hard. We just ask you to check in now and then and let us know the amount of cannabis you're using, your dose. Is it tested in a laboratory? And it's not about you. It's about your data. So this is all very safe. But the end result is nobody's going to make any money on this, but the data is being collected and it will be used. It will be given to the Veterans Health Administration and the public at large, medical, everybody at large, to be able to use and see if cannabis really is a good medicine for post-traumatic stress, which we all believe it is, us veterans anyway that know about these things, and just put on a bunch of data that proves it. So again, if you are a veteran, if you know a veteran, if you love a veteran, if you support veterans, if there's a veteran in your office, if the guy that you buy your newspaper from in the morning is a veteran, please call their attention to veteranptsdstudy.org. We will appreciate it as veterans forever. And again, our main website for Patients at a Time is www.medicalcannabis.com. There'll be continuing medical education information and links for healthcare professionals to take accredited courses online. And one of the other websites Mary Lynn gave you before, again, is www.themedicalcannabisinstitute.org. And we will be back the same time next Sunday and Monday at the same place. That's 1 o'clock East Coast time on timeforhemp.com on iHeartRadio, representing Patients at a Time. Until then, this is Al Byrne. Take care.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money.